Hello, in our last lecture we looked at different dimensions of ethics and how organizations respond to the ethical issues both within the organization and creating an environment of ethical behavior and ethical practices. Today we will continue our discussion about the management and society and look at more social responsibility and ethics aspect. At the end of this lecture, basically you must be able to know and understand the concept of corporate ethics and social responsibility and concept of ethical and social audit. As we are talking about ethics in relation to social responsibility, organizations need to have not only the concern for the society, not only to have concern for the people who are working for the organization, concern for all the stakeholders, but all these concerns must be articulated in terms of a code of conduct. The code of conduct which is established, people are aware, people accept and also initiate several new actions as corporate response to the societal problems. I think in this context we need to see the corporate social responsibility, and the assumption is an ethical stance helps corporations continue to be ethical when it faces competition. What is most important is the business, as we talked earlier, go through a cycle of ups and downs. When business is good or when business is bad, organizations need to stand on its core values and what they consider as good for all. So it happens through increased credibility, it gains with public and employees for its superior decisions. So as we go along, we will explore this dimension, and we also see the ethical attitudes must be institutionalized within a company in order to withstand pressures. Otherwise, people may take short-term actions, or they may say, no, I was not too sure, and that is how I responded to the situation. So it is in that sense, ethics is called dharma, and we are talking about basically the corporate dharma. The corporates, what they need to do in order to sustain its stance when the environment is not very clear in terms of what is right and what is wrong. So these things have to be defined internally. And there is a growing perception of the need for ethics, and particularly the external organizations, governing bodies. It could be, we are seeing many agencies are coming, like SEBI in the capital markets, or for example, that we need to have some controlling authorities. So the question is that the ethics need to be established, to be enforced both externally as well as internally. So there is a growing perception about this. Another important thing is when it comes to the profits, when things are good, organizations may not really bother about the other factors like capacity to pay, the value for money and such things. So it may be a kind of a short time profiteering because of the monopoly or because of the control over the unique resources. And also the ethics and the laws, where we want the organizations to go by what is there in the law, but also the spirit of the law, and creating opportunities for people to take more proactive actions and not just going by what is written in the law. When we look at the social responsibility, it means different things to different people. Sometimes it is seen as corporate dana, the kind of charity what they do for the society, but generally the corporate social responsibility is the obligation to take action, to take care of the societal requirements and take action that protects and improves the welfare of the society as a whole. It is not only taking care of the society as well as the organizational interests. So, the social responsibility as a concept, we see that a manager must try to achieve both organizational and societal goals, but meet those goals of the society. The societal goals in terms of welfare, in terms of providing rights and providing quality of life. I think all these things become part of the organizational response as well. A model of corporate social responsibility is developed by Keith Davis, and it provides 5 propositions that describe why and how business should adhere to the obligation to take action that protects and improves the welfare of the society and the organization. And if you see these 5 arguments, 5 propositions, probably we will be able to appreciate different aspects of social responsibility, how people perceive and interpret the same thing. If you look at the proposition 1, the social responsibility of the organization arises from the social power. The social power because the organization gets control over set of resources and they need to exercise this power which is comparatively higher than what an individual can exercise, and the use of that power is a kind of a response, and they should influence the public domain, the public opinion, public awareness. I think this is the first proposition. The proposition 2, the business organization shall operate as an open system. As an open system, they are receiving inputs, they are receiving resources, they are receiving several help from external systems. It could be the law and order, it could be the educated people, or it could be the kind of raw material. So many of these things they receive from the society. And so when you receive such obligations from external elements to the organization, that is from the society, and it is obligatory on the part of the organization to be disclosing. So the disclosure of the operation to the public and also do something to the public or to the society becomes another important aspect of exchange. So the no organization can be a closed system. So the use of this open system concept is that business need to be responsive as it expects organizational relevant elements of the society to be more responsive to the business organizations. Proposition 3 is the social costs and benefits of an activity, product or service shall be thoroughly calculated and considered in deciding whether to proceed with it. I think this is what it is when we use the word social cost benefits. So one may come up with a big apartment block. Now once apartment block or the mall and things like that, one need to see what impact it is going to have. The impact it is going to have on transportation or increasing need for the parking areas or demand for energy, water. So one need to see what that organization is thinking of doing and what are the corresponding pressures on the society, and then the organization should respond to the kind of issues which is going to create, and that's the idea of the social cost and benefits. And then one can also see the proposition 4 is social cost related to each activity, product or service shall be passed on to the consumer. So that means somebody has to pay for it. So there is organizations create that kind of an awareness to the consumer that it comes with these obligations. As organizations don't absorb, organizations should not neglect it. So the question is that they should keep the consumer informed. And the other thing is the business institutions as citizens, like as entities, have the responsibility to become involved in certain social problems that are outside the normal areas of operation. So you cannot say that I am not interested in constructing or supporting sports activities or construction of the stadiums, or it may be about the road, or it may be about the hygiene in the society. So there are many things whatever you see across the society and also the social problems of the society, which could be unemployment, or which could be lack of amenities, lack of resources at the community. I think that becomes an important consideration for the organization to respond. There are many organizations have taken initiative to respond for the health care or education of the women, or taking care of the children, or like some of the foundations are working, like Azim Premji Foundation is working for primary education, and similarly the Akshara Foundation helping people to get the midday meals. So such things where organizations consider that they need to work and they need to respond to the societal requirements. As we are seeing that these propositions are not very exclusive, but these propositions can come in combination. They are not pure, but they provide many alternative ways of seeing why cooperation should have a great concern for the societal issues. But when you look at the areas of responsibility, the areas in which the businesses can become involved could be many things. It is to protect and improve the welfare of the society, and when you see, it becomes numerous and diverse. It could take over all the aspects of what a government could do, to simple things, planting of the trees, making the place greener, or providing employment opportunities for the people in nearby areas, adopting of certain schools, or today people are also talking of the maintenance of the roads, or building some new facilities, or helping schools and school children, or women in distress. So you can create many of the initiatives or create such activities which is publicized as part of the urban affairs or the consumer affair or the environmental related things, and also build better employment practices. So the areas of social responsibility are many, numerous, and also can come in different shades, and one can also relate it to the social responsibility with respect to different segments. One can relate it to the stakeholders. So then you are bothered about the customers, the employees, and the investors. So if you see the important stakeholders, so with respect to the customers, so you do talk to them, and you talk about the kind of new technologies which you are trying to develop. Sometimes you also train some of their key managers so that they understand the kind of pressures what you are experiencing. So it is also the employees, investing in the employees, families, helping them to be good citizens. For example, conducting of these blood donation camps, conducting the vacation camps for the children of the employees. These are all the kind of responses one can be active with respect to the employees and their families. And another important thing is with respect to the investors, keeping them informed, being more transparent, and providing the kind of complete information to them. These are all the kind of responses to the investors. And one can also see in terms of the thinking about the environment. And today many organizations are environmentally sensitive, and they want to create the products which could be so-called green friendly. They can emphasize on this kind of a recycling and also the issues of public safety. They can create opportunities for not only for the employees, but also involving the public to see what is good for the society in the long run. And we can also think in terms of the general social welfare and kind of a charitable activities through contribution, through support. We see there are many sponsors today for sports, music activities, or also can take in terms of several runs, the way the employees run for a cause, or it could be about the child labor, some human rights, so the equal employment opportunities. So the corporations need to support the initiatives through funding, through sponsorship, or taking active role in forming societal views. So the areas of social responsibility is completely left to the organization, and they can initiate. And let's look at some of the arguments about the social responsibility. Although numerous businesses are involved in socially responsible activities, still a lot of controversy persists, both within the organization as well as outside the organization. It is necessarily comes around the kind of positions what people take, whether somebody should get involved or should not get involved. And the arguments for and against businesses performing socially responsible activities where people would like to see what is that relevant activities and whether it has any direct bearing or not, whether it has some direct help or not. So the organizations, when they are contributing to the school, when contributing to the college education, one can link very directly, yes, it has some direct effect or some direct use, or you are contributing to some cause. But when you also contribute for a building of a temple or building of some facilities, one cannot link directly the benefits of this. So the question is that one can see whether it has any impact on the society, whether how it is useful to the organization. So one can get into the arguments whether it is really helping or it is not helping, whether should help only your society and community nearby, or you can also do the things at a distance. So the arguments are this specifically, if you see, business creates problems, therefore should help solve the problems. I think this is one view. So that means when you start an organization, you are going to cut the trees, you are going to displace the people. So if those things are involved, now better you plant trees, you create opportunities for people. So this is one kind of an argument which can directly linked to what organization has done and how is that it should compensate. And similarly, one can take a view, corporations are citizens in the society. Look, you are an important organization, important society. So when we come to you, you should respond. I think that is what the society looks for from the organization. Yes, it is your obligation. And also it is seen already the business often have the resources. So that means, look, you have more money with you, and that money, you must give it back in some sense. One can take an argument, we pay taxes, and so why should we spend this hard-earned money? But one can see a little beyond. So you should see it as a charity. You have to solve the problems of the society. So that means when you have extra resources, provide these resources which are very essential to solve some of the basic necessities, basic problems of the society. Another view is that the business is a partner in the society, like that you are talking about with the government or general population or anything. Apart from you have the resources, but you are also a partner. So partner in the progress, partner in terms of understanding and applying some new solutions to the known problems. I think it is in that sense organizations also have to contribute. So the purpose of business, one can see, is to generate profit for the owner. So once he pays the tax, he need not get involved, but then one can also say involvement in the social programs gives business also too much power. So as they contribute, they also get the respect of the community, and when things go wrong for the organization, they can always fall back on this kind of a goodwill of the community. And there is also a potential for what we can see is a kind of a conflict of interest. So sometimes business lacks the expertise to solve all the social problems. So that means they have money, but really they don't know where to deploy. So they may create an unnecessary conflict in a society by supporting only one community of people or one group of people. So one should also see whether they should get involved directly or they should get involved through some other agency which has the required expertise. And also one can see people today go beyond where the the activities could also be kind of a thing where one can see, respond to many of the things what Friedman has talked about. So Friedman argues that making business managers simultaneously responsible to the business owners for reaching profit objectives and also to extend themselves for society, for enhancing societal welfare. I think this represents what one can see. Yes, there is a potential conflict, a conflict of interest, but it can also be linked to the demise of the business. So if it will always occur, it is going to be there if business continually is forced to perform socially responsible behavior that is in direct conflict with private organizational objectives. So one need to resolve this, one need to see what is how this can be brought together. So when you to require business managers to pursue socially responsible objectives, but then may be unethical, so managers to spend money that really belongs to the other individuals. So during these situations that one has to see what is best. Is it purely managerial, is it purely organizational, or purely societal? So whatever this, regardless of which argument or in combination of arguments we are going to see or particular managers might support, they generally should make a concerted effort to perform all legally required socially responsible activities. So there are no further arguments about it. They should consider voluntarily performing socially responsible activities beyond those legally required and inform all relevant individuals of the extent to which their organization will become involved and performing socially responsible activities. So that means the argument is very clear. Finally, it is the concern for the society, the concern for the social problems has to take over some of the immediate concerns of the organization or the managers would like to adopt. So one can extend this argument a little further in terms of what stance or what is the view organization can take. A defensive stance in which organization does everything that is required of it legally but nothing more. So they would pay taxes, if they have to pay some cess, they will pay the cess, but unless the government demands, they are not going to do anything more. The other part is that accommodative stance in which an organization meets its legal and ethical obligations and also goes beyond these requirements in selected cases. So that means they may take up some issues if there is a crisis of say natural disaster or because of the rain several houses are washed out. So may they take up that as an issue and respond to that kind of a crisis situation. But nothing beyond, but they try to accommodate if they consider that something unusual is happening in the society or some crisis has taken place, and then they would respond to that. The third definitely is a kind of a proactive stance in which the organization views itself as what we mentioned earlier, as a citizen of a society, as a responsible person, and then look for proactively what is that we should do or organization should do so that they can make a difference. They can make a difference in providing resources, they can make a difference through providing expertise of their managers or their people, or hiring some of the organizations to understand and study the problems and come up with some new solutions. It could be many things in the area of health, in the area of education, in the area of infrastructure. So many of these things organizations can identify and respond to. So that's in terms of the kind of a proactive thing. So in the approaches we can see very clearly, one can be very obstructionist kind of a stance where they take it, I think they take a critical position of the government and the society that nothing should be demanded out of them, which is at a very lowest level of social responsibility. When we move into a kind of a very defensive stance, in the defensive stance the organization would do all the things so that nobody can criticize that organization, and then you move on to an accommodative stance where you respond to crisis, you respond to some unusual circumstances of the society and deal with those problems, and then you withdraw, then to the final stage where you are very proactive. So progressively you look for what the problems are, what is that could be done, mobilize your own resources, not only in money but in kind, but sometimes you also take a leadership. It could be raising of the fund for the cancer patients, or it could be anything which may or may not directly influence the profitability or performance of the organization. So one can see the different shades, the approaches of the organization towards its social responsibility. The social responsiveness is further to see as the degree of effectiveness and efficiency an organization displays in pursuing its social responsibility. So the response could be very passive, the response could be very active. So the greater the degree of effectiveness and efficiency, the more socially responsive the organization is said to be. So that I think that's the understanding, and the socially responsive organization, as we see, they are efficient, they are also effective in understanding and without wasting organizational resources in the process. That means you are able to give that kind of a leadership, you are able to get that kind of a support, and then you help people to understand the problems, also to respond to the issues. So an efficient organization would go a little beyond determining exactly which social responsibilities an organization should pursue, and then deciding how to pursue them, and maybe perhaps one can make the most critical decision in terms of what is that maintaining a high level of social responsiveness and making sure that all the resources are available to meet those aspects. So the managers must decide whether their organization should undertake the activities on its own or acquire the help of outsiders with more expertise in the area. And certainly certain as we are seeing, some areas do require expertise. For example, expertise working with communities. Examples like HIV and AIDS. So HIV and AIDS, so the organization may have all the resources and money, but it may not have the required expertise to analyze, understand specific problems, specific groups, specific individuals, and how they can be helped in creating awareness, in creating acceptance, and making them adopt some safe and better practices. So in addition to decision making, one can also see how to meet these obligations, and I think that makes it much more critical how much to involve, to what degree they should adopt the strategy of responding to the social problems. A desirable and socially responsive approach to meeting social obligation involves the following: incorporating social goals into the annual planning process. So that means you try and understand what that community corporation has to respond to, and then maybe involving some of the community leaders into this process, so that you can allocate some funds or you can allocate some resources. And also the seeking comparative industry norms for social programs. That means you try and benchmark what other organizations are doing and where is that they are making a difference, and then see whether you can also work towards that direction and see what that could be done. And also presenting reports to the organization members, the board of directors and stakeholders on progress in social responsibility. It could be about the adoption of the school, or making available some of the infrastructure for the educational activities, or extending help for some other organization which is supplementing the nutrition of the children in the community, or it is about the educating the adult population, or extending some community entertainment facilities, it could be many things. So the organization can do it directly or through the help of others. And experimenting with different approaches for measuring the social performance. So also to make sure that the facilities what you have extended support what you have provided, also resulting in better practices within the society. So to measure this cost of the programs as well as the return on social program investments becomes an important activity and a part of this social responsiveness. So the organization characterized by attitudes and behaviors consistent with the social responsiveness approach generally the problems which are more socially relevant, and so organization builds into that kind of the attitudes and behaviors where they are part of the social responsibility, and then they try and meet all the obligations. So the social obligation approach what we mentioned earlier. So organizations characterized by the social responsibility approach generally achieve higher levels of social responsibilities than organization characterized by a kind of a social obligation approach. So the question is, as one moves from one social obligation approach to the social responsiveness approach, then you will see the management becomes more proactive. So the proactive managers will do what is prudent from a business point of view and also reduce liabilities whether an action is required by law or not. So they go beyond what is prescribed by the law, and they also see what is that businesses can do, and they try and work hard in understanding the needs of the community or needs of the specific group of people who are in demand for a service, and then organization make it much more need based, and they will do all the things like making sure the problem is well identified and problem is well understood and analyzed, and then they see where do they fit in terms of helping them to solve the problems themselves, rather than making it as a kind of a continuous obligation on the part of the organization. I think when you look at this, managing social responsibility, I think we should see some of the formal aspects. One is important in terms of look at the legal compliance. So the extent to which the organization conforms to the local, state, central, federal and international laws. Very clearly the guidelines need to be followed, and making sure that it has every right practice. Could be about the employment practices, it could be about the disclosure of the information to the relevant people. So the legal compliance is of utmost importance. Then we are also talking about the ethical compliance. The ethical compliance is to extent of which the members of the organization follow very clearly the basic ethical standards of behavior. And as we discussed earlier, that what is acceptable in a particular societal context, so that you would do all that is required. But then you also get into the philanthropic giving. So that means awarding funds or gifts to the charities or other social programs. That is, you are making a financial kind of contribution, so that set of activities could be strengthened. Then I think we should also talk about this whistleblowing. The organizational response to the disclosure, always if organization is not doing it, may happen by an employee. So of some illegal or unethical conduct on the part of others within the organization, and it is indicative of the organization's stance on social responsibility. So sometimes organizations take the cover of the organizational social responsibility and to cover up some of their misdeeds. So they may be getting into the charity or doing many things. And so the whistleblowing comes where one or many of the employees do tell that I think organization is doing something, but it is not in correspondence with the stated values or whatever they are doing as a part of the social responsibility. I think that's where it is important that organizational social responsibility has to become institutionalized. Organizational leadership and culture plays a big role. Leadership practices and the culture of the organization always can help define what this organization should be doing, and also the members need to adopt at every level. And to be consistent, one need to get into the measurements to see how the organizations are progressing in reaching socially responsible objectives and how something more can be done. And in the specific areas in which individual companies actually take such measurements vary. I don't think there is any specific standard one can apply and suggest, I think these are the indicators or these are the areas one need to take measurements to decide whether the organization is socially responsive or not. So such standardizations are not available, and the degree to which one can stretch also cannot be decided a priori. But all companies, however, all organizations, however, probably should take such measurements in at least the following 4 major areas. One, in terms of their economic function. This gives in terms of the measurement how much they are making some kind of a contribution as a part of their total turnover or part of their profits. Are they giving something back to the society? What percentage of their money is coming back to the society as a part of charity or supporting non-governmental organizations or supporting government initiatives in doing several things, or the activity is done by the organization itself, or maybe the organization and its employees. So the point is, the organization and the employees, whatever they do, or the organization helping through others, but one need to see at the end of the day what is the percentage of its money getting into this, getting into the activities. The second part one need to take a measurement and see is the quality of life. The measurement of quality of life should focus in terms of what is the difference they have made. What is the difference they have made in terms of improving, degrading the general quality of life in the society? Have they created entertainment activities? Have they created the capacity building activities at different levels? Or they have used the resources where they have created some kind of a degradation of maybe the forest or the tree or natural resources? So they have not got a long-term view of what's going to happen. So with the quality of life, the impact whatever they are going to make or the organization is making becomes another area of measurement. The third area of measurement is the social investment. The measurement of social investment basically deals with degree to which the organization is investing both money and human resources to solve community social problems. As I said, as part of the economic things is that economic well-being and the kind of resources what is being provided, but this goes one step further to see how much of that is creating a kind of a wealth in the in the society, so that it has a capacity to deal with its own set of problems. And finally, one can also see the problem solving. The measurement of problem solving should focus on the degree to which the organization deals with social problems. So that means whether the organization is known for in providing an expertise or providing resources to help overcome some of the difficulties or problems of the society. So people are using this word when we have to talk about externally is a kind of a social audit. A social audit is the process of taking measurements of social responsibility to assess organizational performance in this area. So now we are trying to build what are the dimensions of social audit depending upon the nature and functioning of the organization itself. So, the basic steps in conducting a social audit are monitoring, measuring and appraising all aspects of an organization's society, particularly the socially responsible performance. So, the socially responsible performance in different areas, and no two organizations conduct and they present the results of a social audit in exactly the same way. So, we cannot benchmark and say this organization is better, that organization is great. So, it is in that sense, how can we run through this social audit, how can we capture the data becomes an important concern. The social audit is basically a process of measuring, and the process of measurement means we have to consider all the necessary aspects, and also we should not make it so exhaustive. So, all the sufficient aspects need to be included. And so, it should monitor, it should measure and appraise, and how the socially responsible performance are being developed or they delivered by the organizations. So, when we are trying to see that ethics and the corporate social responsibility, organizational response to the society, we need to see in shades and also the kind of activities they could get into. And also, do they get into in a philosophical sense, or do they get in a transactional sense, or they get into an obligatory sense, or they take these activities in a proactive sense. Organizations, when they become more proactive, when they start understanding and analyzing the problems and also deploy the organizational expertise, they tend to become much more useful and they become much more relevant. We can take several case studies. We can take the several case studies of different organizations to understand what is that they have done or what is that they have extended their organizational resources. The specific activities or this, one can see there are many technology companies are helping the healthcare in terms of providing the poor and the people who cannot afford, give them that kind of a benefits. Like this Arvind Eye Care hospital is supported by many charities. So, such charities provide that kind of a required resources. Similarly, there are several organizations support cancer patients. So, the cancer patients do require big money at the time of the crisis, or when they have to be helped when they are terminally ill. So, the organizations do provide the resources and the facility both in cash and kind, and help the patients to cope with such situations. There are organizations also send people who would interact with such patients. I think this is, one can see what one can do about with respect to the health care, but also when you agree and move this to the other situations, definitely the education sector becomes one of the most sought after, as you will see that organizations and performing organizations must support the quality of education at, in the society. How is that they can do? So, the foundations established by Infosys helps providing books, library books particularly for all at the school level, so that well established libraries are available in the school, so that it develops a reading habits in them. Similarly, we find there are charities which takes care of the midday meals. Also, people, they call it as in Kannada, the Akshara Dasoha. So, there are different ways people take care of the basic requirements. Similarly, there are organizations provide contributions to the organizations which are actively involved in the social service activities. Maybe it could be kind of a Rotary. So, the Rotary clubs or certain other similar agencies, they are helped both through the corporate charities and own charities, to take care of specific problems. It may be providing the bus shelters, or it may be providing specific amenities in the community. It could be providing computers to the school, or providing drinking water facilities. So, as charities expand their scope of activities, corporations support such things through both cash as well as kind. And the very extensive work also can be done to build in terms of the capacity building at the societal level. Typically what is the Azim Premji Foundation kind of a work, where the corporation makes available the big money so that the problems can be analyzed, the problems can be supported, and they are making a big difference in the field of education. We mentioned some examples of health, some examples of education. One can support the society in different ways, where some of the organizations are adopting the roads to maintain that kind of a quality, or also creating greenery in the area, planting trees, or also creating awareness in the society. So that means you declare a particular day to support the concern what people should have for road safety. So the road safety campaigns, then the employees come together, then create all the publicity material for that particular cause, and then you do create that kind of an awareness campaign about the road safety. And also you will see the examples coming from the organization where they also involve the relevant community. So that means they make that kind of a bridge so that they help those people to address their problems as well as sort it out. So as organizations keep understanding and responding to it, sometimes the organizations do have some people who can or have some facilities to see what is that could be done, so that or towards maybe water recycling, or maybe the storing this kind of a rainwater harvesting. So organizations do provide such help. They can hire the resources, or they can hire the required NGOs to do such activities within the society. Organizations, apart from this kind of a general problem solving situation, also deal with the issues which can come as crisis. The crisis could come in terms of maybe an accident of a nature like a railway accident, which nobody could predict, or it could be some of the national disasters. So the national disasters involving the earthquake and things like that. So the organizations do respond in such situations by sending doctors, sending materials, collecting all the materials from a community which is more comfortable, and transporting to the areas wherever it is required. The recent tsunami was another great experience where people, organizations worked very hard to meet and move all the requirements and material supplies. And as we start seeing this, the corporations, why are they responding? Why are they responding can be explained as we talked about the kind of approaches which they adopt. When they feel natural, when they feel that they are part of the society and they behave like any individual who has some responsibility, I think that's the best thing to happen. Instead of that government playing a middle role and making them to pay through increased taxes, or making through imposing some new cess on them, I think it is better that organizations respond voluntarily and helping in different ways in as many possible manners. I think that's what we are talking about as proactive social responsibility. So the progressively the organizations become socially responsive, I think they would contribute for the quality of life in general, and also creating employees who are committed not only to the product, services, and the the society at large, so that it makes them better citizens of the organization as well as the citizens of the society. I think that is an important role the corporate social responsibility plays in strengthening the internal organization, in creating a broader picture of the organization in relation to the society in which it functions, and making sure that there is a positive energy at all levels. With this dimensions of corporate social responsibility, we can really talk about is what is that we need to see is the corporate and social responsibility is an intensely practical issue which should engage serious attention of the management. That means management cannot think it as a wishful thinking, a nice to do thing, or it should be done because somebody is asking for it. So the management must feel that it is an important, serious aspect and create a cell or create a section, create a department which would take actively the issues of the society and internally create debates within the organization and create people with values to take charge of the situation, people with expertise to deal with and make a difference of the problems of the society. I think taking care of that kind of a proactive stance will help improving the credibility of the organization, building challenges within the people, within the employees, and also definitely create more positive energy at the social level. So such responsibility can impose a great burden on the management because it has to divert its attention, it has to focus its energies on not only their own problems but also the problems of the others. So the dilemma should be seen in terms of that the response of the organization also brings rewards. It brings the rewards where it functions in a healthy and the meaningful society. In summary, what we are talking about is the concept of social responsibility. Then we are also talking about the social responsiveness, and the social responsiveness cannot be left to the choices, but we need to focus and do the areas of measurement, or we have to put the correct methodologies to see whether the corporation is delivering the expected results or not, so that the resources which are in scarce are not wasted, and also comparatively one need to do the benchmarking in terms of conduct of the social audit. In social audit, systematically we need to analyze and compare how these organizations are proactively responding to the societal problems. And what we will do, we will look at from the social responsiveness, we will move on to another important area, another important function, the human resource management, the personnel management, and we will analyze and understand scope of these personnel functions in any organization and how a responsible, proactive human resource management would make a big difference to the corporations.